Morning Club Mind, Body and Soul welcome you to its very first edition today. I am Dr. Shilpa Parasrampuria, and on behalf of Anju Gatani and myself, I promise you an exciting foray into a journey of self-discovery. Good health is not merely a good physical body. Our mind and body are interconnected and, and affect each other tremendously. How to tap into this infinite field of possibilities so that we can redirect and improve our lives materially, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Let us be guided to a way of seeing the profound truth that lies beyond the illusion of everyday life, and by doing so, to discover our true destiny. Go from a path of fulfillment to enlightenment. A person's voice throws light on her personality and state of mind. Let us find out how and why voice is important. Over to Anju Gatani for a few words.
Good morning, everybody. We do believe that miracles happen in our lives every day. Let us tune into the presence of miracles that can transform into an experience, and let us explore the potential of one physical self thoughts and emotions. So, as Shilpa referred, let us tap into this infinite field of possibilities so that we can redirect and improve our lives materially, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So I now invite Shilpa to introduce us for the day.
So, our speakers today are Monaz Ranina and Raj Barwa. Monaz is a celebrated voice artist and a voice trainer with over 25 years of experience in voice business and media industry. She is one of the leading personalities, one of the leading professionals in the industry. She wears many hats and has been the fabric of many success stories of some of the world's leading brands. She has been the voice of some of the biggest brands in the world, like Google, Unilever, Emirates, Volkswagen, Times, Netflix, and many more. With a tagline, Power of Sound, Your Voice, she has trained various Bollywood personalities. Raj Barwa has been a veteran media professional with a career of 3 decades, spread across various media verticals and corporations. He was part of the core team that handled Discovery Networks. He was instrumental in launching shows like Indian Idol, India's Got Talent, X Factor, to name just a few. As a freelancer, Raj now is focused on developing and working on the power of sound and working on aspects like how one's voice can transform an individual and open closed doors for much larger opportunities by combining with Monaz, the voice expert. So over to Raj and Monaz now.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you very much, Anju. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. So thank you and a very warm welcome. I'm going to hand this over to Raj first.
Thank you very much, Shilpa. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out this morning. And we are privileged. We are privileged to be with you all. So my name is, as Shilpa has mentioned, my name is Raj Barua. Can you all hear me? I hope both of us are clear. So, okay. So my name is Raj Barua, and briefly, thank you very much for giving so much of laurels into my name. I have been in the media industry for a long time, and I've donned many roles. And finally, I've now got with Monaz Ranina, who you can see from here. We are now carving out a platform where we are focusing entirely on the concept of voice. None of us, very few of us actually realize the potential of your voice, which is the power of sound and your voice. We don't realize till the time somebody points out that unless you utilize that skill set, which is your voice, you are probably half done. And Amitabh Bachchan, Om Puri probably would not have been where they are unless they had the voice. I'm sure all of you will agree. A lot of the beauty pageants, a lot of the models, a lot of Bollywood, a lot of the beauty models, a lot of beauty pageants, a lot of actors, a lot of professionals, a lot of business entrepreneurs have now started realizing the importance of voice when they're speaking, either in public or in various boardrooms or in meetings or even in various other platforms like theater. So, without saying anything much, I think it will be appropriate for me to hand over to Monaz, who is one of the most professional voice talents of this country. In her voice, you will recognize her voice when you hear her voice, that you have seen many, many ads on television and on films. And I'm sure you're going to like it. So let me hand it over to you. We will talk a little more towards the end about what we do. And for the moment, let me hand over to Monaz, who's going to be taking over. Welcome, Monaz.
Thank you very much, Raj. I hope I'm audible to each one of you. So a very, very warm welcome. I am very humbled indeed to have, that you all have invited us and to touch on an energy which is actually a temple energy for me, the temple of sound, the temple that lies within, which is our voice. So many of us take this for granted, isn't it? We think that, voice is something that is just used to communicate. But not many of us realize that this is the only medium that can transport us and reach us to our highest potential. I've had a beautiful journey with my own voice. I started voicing at the age of 8 for Roshan Shet's film for UNICEF. And ever since then, there has been no looking back. I'm in my early 50s now, just turned 50. And there's not a single day where I do not use my voice. For me, this energy has transformed me to touch many people, to train them across borders, across shores, of course, with the acumen of Raj himself, who has been so patient and has mentored me as well. So thank you very much. Now, talking about this beautiful aspect of voice, many of us feel that it lies in the voice box. How many of us really know where this beautiful sound comes from? And also to understand that each one of us has a beautiful sounding voice. It's just that we don't recognize it. Our voice actually lies in the mind. It does not lie in the voice box. And I say this because it is from here that many characters are formed. It is from here that many films get made. And it is from here that many animation scripts are developed. How can a 40-year-old become a small hamster? And how can a 50-year-old change her voice and become an old grandmother in her hundreds, say 150-year-old? I'm going to demonstrate a small advertisement that I normally do when I start my webinars and seminars. And here's a one that I'm sure that's going to resonate with many of you. Lots of us love to eat ice cream, and Magnum ice cream is a very pet project thanks to Unilever. So I'm going to start by reading out an advertisement that many of you must have seen on television. Discover new Magnum hazelnut, velvety hazelnut ice cream covered in thick Belgian chocolate. New Magnum hazelnut for pleasure seekers. For pleasure seekers. How many of us love Magnum ice cream? Well, here's the secret. When I started voicing for Magnum and I did this advertisement, I was actually paid even to bite into the ice cream and deliver this beautiful ice cream advertisement to places across the shores and across the globe. But the one thing that really struck me is that the ice cream and the chocolate lies in the mind, and the mind had to convert the sound and make it sound so delicious that millions of people had Magnum ice cream in their hands, and Unilever sales just suddenly skyrocketed high. The secret to a good voice lies in your mind. There are many elements that involve a beautiful sound, lots and lots of elements. I cannot touch upon all the elements, so I'm just going to highlight a few of them. One of the most important elements to start off with is all of us resonate, most of us resonate, rather not all, I would say, most of us resonate with a feeling of fear. I want to speak, but I am so scared when it comes to speaking in front of people. What will people think of me? Judgment. And although I can't see your beautiful faces, I know that you are there and you can see me and resonate with what I'm saying exactly. It could be us, it could be our husbands, it could be our kids, our grandkids, our uncles and aunts. I want to sell a product, but I cannot speak. Something happens when I speak. And what happens? One word, fear. What we do is we transform fear into a beautiful space called fuel. We convert fear into fuel. And how do we do this? By recognizing it and by seeing it in our face. Once you're scared, the second time you will not be scared. And the third time, your fear is converted into a beautiful strength each time you stand up. So converting fear into your tonic is the most important formula to overcome this fright. So many of us have thoughts. We've got beautiful thoughts, fantastic intellect. But how do we dress that up? That's when good sounding voices come in. How do we dress up our thoughts and how do we communicate? How do we become good orators? How do we speak while feeling so good about our sound? Not in that sense, not in the high sense, but feeling good to be able to communicate, to be able to give something back. How do we do that? Now, here's the thing. Some of the important elements are, and I'm going to highlight just a few. One, intention. What is intention? Intention lies in our mind. What is my intent? In Hindi, we call it sankalp. Where am I coming from? What do I want to give out? What is my message? I want to be clear. I want to be believable. I want to be a magnet. I also want to be unforgettable so that people remember that sound. That is my intention. So you give your mind a message saying, this is what I want to become, and this is what I want to deliver through my sound, through my advertisement. So that's the power of intention. Having a thought already in your mind to program, and your voice connects with that thought. The power of intention is huge in the world of sound. How else could we deliver beautiful scripts? I'll give you an example. Tata Steel is a huge company run by none other than Ratan Tata himself. Tata Steel has always been a male-dominated area. Okay? Steel is something that resonates with men, with the male gender, not the female gender. Ratan Tata suddenly decided, and he said one day, he said, I want to convert my audiovisual films into female-centric films. I want a female to be the voice and run this whole platform. I want it to be driven by a female, okay? So here goes, there were auditions done all across and more than 300, 400, 500 voices went across for auditions. I was called by the production house, a very big production house, and he said, Monaz, will you audition this live in the studio with the producer and with the core management team of Tata Steel and with Skype calls going back and forth to Jamshedpur. So I was very scared. I said, I'm a woman. How am I going to carry off a steel voice? So I said, okay, let's bring it on. Let's go to the studio and let's give this a shot. I had this whole huge team sitting in front of me and a script. And, the script was given to me and they said, okay, Monaz, this is it now. This is the brief for the script. We always get a brief for every single script. What are we to do? That's how intention is driven. So they said, this is the brief. I said, what would you want me to do? He said, wear on a leather suit and wear steel in your voice. Wear steel in your voice. Have a grit attitude when you're delivering that particular script. So there I was. I had to imagine that I was wearing a leather suit, a pair of boots, and converted this voice box into steel bars to give this a steel sounding sound. And lo and behold, I gave about a paragraph and it was sent back to Mr. Tata. And he called back saying, this is it. This is exactly what I want. And so I became the voice for Tata Steel and gave all the men a run for from wherever they came from. And I realized that women have that power. We all have that power. It just needs to be converted. It just needs to come from a place called faith and believing in yourself that all of us have a beautiful voice. We've just got to convert it. I'll give you an example of it as we move on, and I'll keep giving you examples of how we use these elements, all right? So here's the thing. This intention converted into my brain, and it said, now change Monaz into wearing a pair of boots, into riding a motorbike, wearing a leather jacket, full throttle, get into the studio and give it your best. And Tata Steel was designed just like that. That is the power of intention, to convert in our mind, to believe it. The voice box will follow that message and will react in that particular manner. Another very important element is our breath. How many times do we take this for granted? We have breath, we have this life force inside us. But very often we don't even recognize and we don't even realize that we are breathing, that we need to breathe while we are speaking. It's always high pitched. Hello, hi and welcome to this beautiful format. I'm Monaz and here I am giving my speech. What's happening? Everything is high. There is no breathing, there's no depth. So what does the breath do? It actually transports one word to another. It adds like a bridge. It helps holding one word from another. And it pushes that beautiful force called the life force through our words. So I'll give you an example of it. I'm going to read a passage using the breath. First, I'll read without using the breath, and then I'll read while using the breath. Here goes. This is a book that I did for Ayurveda. It's one of the best sellers. It's called Everyday Ayurveda for Penguin Random House. Now, this is how we'll read on a daily basis, okay? This is just an example. Moist soils speak through my little toes as I sit on my mother's lap, gazing at the passing countryside as we whirl past in the rickshaw. The same air that kissed nearby shrubs swirls gently onto us as my mother tells my Mashi about medicinal potions made from the neem tree. Now, this is when I convert it. This is what would happen if I convert it using my breath. Moist soils speak through my little toes as I sit on my mother's lap, gazing at the passing countryside as we whirl past in a rickshaw. The same air that kissed nearby shrubs swirls gently onto us as my mother tells my Mashi, my aunt, about medicinal potions made from the neem tree. Now, what have I just done? I've pushed in a lot of breath while I'm speaking. I had the intention that I wanted you to understand what I'm saying. So I wanted you to resonate with my sound. All right? Moving on to the next element, a very, very important element, which is the pause. How many times do we pause when we are speaking? How often do we really take a deep breath and say, okay, stop. Respect the full stop. Respect the comma. Pausing while we are speaking to give a beautiful impact. And trust me, when we use these elements, we become beautiful orators. How is Michelle Obama such a beautiful speaker? How does Barack Obama speak? For example, our own Prime Minister Modi, look at him when he speaks. Look at his orating skills. What does he do? He uses all these elements completely, right? You want to sit back and you really want to listen in to him because he's a master at orating. What does he do? He uses the pause, he uses his breath. Moving on to another beautiful element, articulation, enunciation. Now, what is this? This means to express our words very clearly, expressing our words. For example, just the way I'm speaking to you, expressing our words instead of saying expressing our words very clearly. It will stay with you, but it's not going to hold you, right? So if we say expressing our words very clearly, I'm articulating, I'm pausing, and I'm also breathing in through the words. Now, the next element, very important in this language of English. Some of us find it easy to speak, some of us do not, because we don't think in that particular language. So if you're thinking in English, your English skills will be superb, right? But if we're thinking in our native language, like say Gujarati or Marathi or Tamil or Kannada, then the language formula changes in the mind, the sound changes. So diction is the sound, it's dressing up your words. How important is it? A word like important, it has beautiful T's that sound like stiletto. Important instead of saying important. Development instead of saying development. Entrepreneurs, right? Things like that. Management instead of management. So there is a fix here. Diction means dressing up your sound, A-E-I-O-U, consonants, A, B, C, D, E, and also opening our mouths and speaking, articulating, expressing. How are good advertisements made? Only with expression, only by giving the word life. So what we're doing is, when we make films and we do advertisements and we train people, it's actually training the voice box. It's actually dressing it up. And again, to reiterate, our voice box lies in our mind. It does not lie here. That is why we can change different characters. We can become who we want to become. For example, I'm going to give you an example of a cartoon animated character. I don't know how many of you watch animation or how many children in your homes watch animation, but we've trained lots of people with animation, and I'm going to do a little character that really resonates and that's super fun with. She's called Grandmother Willow, all right? And this is how it's done. This little cartoon character is this old grandmother who's 180 years old, or might be just 200 years old. So Pocahontas is this little girl, native Indian, who rows her boat and gets onto the shore, a Disney production. And she comes to her grandmother and she says, "Grandmother Willow, I need to talk to you." And the grandma says, "Is that my Pocahontas? Tell me what exactly you want." "Oh, Grandmother Willow, I've got something to tell you, and it's all about my mom." Now, what have I done? I've used two voices in one voice box. So I've become a young girl.
और सब ये लोग मिलके कुछ कर रहे हैं और
And
टीच
I've
इज ऑन
also
थर्सडे
become
तो मैं कहा फ्राइडे को कर लें
a grandmother, right? How did I do this? I converted myself. I went into my mind and I visualized the character that I need to become, and then I became that character. And that's what we do when we do advertisements. That's what we do when we're doing animation. And that's what we do when we're doing storytelling. We convert our voice. What I find while training is there are a lot of people who don't understand the value of this beautiful sound that we all have. Although it's God's unique gift and we all possess it, we take it for granted. And then when we're put up in front of a big platform, we're stumbling to speak. We're trying to grab words from here and there. And we've got our stomach muscles very tight. We've got our hands very sweaty and our hearts beating very fast. What is happening here? We're not connecting with ourselves. We're not using these elements. These are just some of the elements. Can you all hear me? These are just some of the elements. There are many other elements that are actually used to becoming a good voice and a good speaker. I'm not saying a celebrity speaker, but just a good speaker. There's pitch, there's texture, there's volume, there's placement of the tongue, there's using all these management skills for voice. So voice is actually a big business. It's a huge industry. There's nothing that can be complete without a sound. Your first hello to the last goodbye is your sound. Countries melt, right? Countries melt with good sounding voices. Politicians have to give their speech when they speak, and how well they speak actually tells us, are they good leaders or are they just reading out a script? And we can resonate that with our own beautiful Prime Minister Modi, who speaks so well. Barack Obama, in fact, who speaks so well. As Raj rightly mentioned, Amitabh Bachchan. What would Amitabh Bachchan become without a voice? It's his voice that has made him who he is. Nawazuddin Siddiqui, look at his voice. Fantastic, isn't it? So enigmatic, so charismatic, that you want to keep on listening. And then you want to give that sound a face. And we wonder, what does she look like? What does he look like? So sound is subtle energy. It's vibrational frequency that can actually touch, it can mend, it can break, and it can do so many things. What happens to us when someone tells us something that is humiliating? Our voice box gets into a contract, right? It contracts, and we feel a lump in our throat and nothing goes down. That's the effect of sound. And the same thing if it can be transformed by saying, how are you today? Good morning and welcome to this beautiful session. I am Monaz, and with all my love, I welcome you all to a wonderful morning filled with beautiful sounding voices. Right? So we've converted it, but we're also having a good time while we're speaking. That is important. Converting, always converting, wearing many hats with your sound. And yet, not getting attached, but doing what you need to do. So communication is so important. It is the power of sound. It is that beautiful power of sound that can change so many things in our life.
Thank you. Thank you, Monaz. Thank you. I think there will be questions coming up, but before that, what I wanted your views, and these are some of the things that we have been doing, and maybe you would like to highlight a few things.
Sure.
The one thing that is very commonly asked, and the one thing that we have seen, which has got us into a lot of success, is the speaking skills when you are an entrepreneur. There are a lot of people who are self-entrepreneurs and startups. There are a lot of CEOs of big companies.
Yes.
There are a lot of individual owners.
Yes.
A lot of times what happens is they go for these meetings, either sales meetings or investor meetings or board meetings or any other meeting for that matter, even for employees when they have to present. Would you like to highlight a little bit about the skill of voice and speaking in those kind of situations?
Sure. Very valid question. Entrepreneurs, CEOs, so many of us are CEOs, so many husbands are CEOs. We run beautiful companies. We've got to travel to Europe to sell our products. And we've got to make videos to sell our products. We've got to talk to customers, talking about our products. But if one doesn't have a good voice to carry out the product, you don't dress up your voice to sell your product, how is the product going to sell? How are you going to talk about yourself? So a good voice can actually, it actually becomes a brand, more than the brand that you're selling. How do I sell what I want to sell? It could be salwar kameez, it could be kurtis, it could be little pouches or paintings or jewelry or shoes or slippers, makeup, food. How do we sell our products without a beautiful voice? How do we communicate? It's all in our voice that we carry the product. So the other person actually feels that vibration and is ready to buy it and is ready to communicate on the other side just because you have had the power to sell it. How do we sell it? When we use these elements, when we're really trained with our vocals, when we know what we are selling. when we're using our pause, when we're using the breath, when we're speaking correctly. Foreigners, for example, we've trained so many CEOs in India, we cannot name them, but very big ones. And in fact, Raj would resonate with this. We've trained somebody from the G20 summit. And, you know, he used to work there. The moment he worked on his communication skills, this man became the CEO of a big company, traveling with Prime Minister Modi, having discussions with Japan's Prime Minister, lunch and dinner with the Argentine president, and discussions in Greece and even in Davos. And this is big. This is very big. And he realized that once he started training and he started working with his elements and really got into the core structure of his sound, he started climbing the corporate ladder. So many times we've seen many leaders have dialect issues. They want to speak, they've got the thought, but they're unable to communicate because one, they're scared. Second, they don't have the whole skill set. So I feel it is very, very essential to really work on something that God has already given us and just polish it up and make it shine like a diamond, just the way your product is. These beautiful diamonds, these beautiful kurtis. Just wear that in your sound when you're actually selling it.
Thank you. I'm sure these examples, why I'm highlighting these examples, so that it makes people aware, first of all.
Yeah.
And it also resonates with a lot of people because a lot of people have these kind of practical issues as and when they use. The other point probably that you would like to highlight or talk a little bit about is accents, because a lot of us go abroad, a lot of us go to Europe, a lot of us go to the US, a lot of us go to Australia. So what happens is, see, English is not our mother tongue. Our mother tongue is something different. We have 22 different languages across the country, but Hindi is our official language. Now, if you are using English, then you might as well try to be as perfect as possible in terms of English. Having said that, accents is something which is which is a little difficult to pick up unless you practice. We have a lot of people who actually wants to practice their accent.
Yes.
Besides CEOs and other big industrialists and other big entrepreneurs, we also have a lot of Bollywood actors who come to us and they train their voice for accents, because the shows, unfortunately for COVID, that it got stopped, but the shows were opening up in various other countries like the US or UK. So training on accents, which also is very important. Monaz may want to say a little bit and maybe say one or two lines with an accent.
Sure.
That's when probably everybody will understand.
Sure. Thank you, Raj. I'm also the voice for Marks and Spencer. Many of you wear Marks and Spencer brand. So I had a technical director straight from UK who was on board on a call and said, Monaz, will you be our Marks and Spencer official voice? I'll give you an example of that. But the reason why accents are so important is when Indians go outside, we've always had their eyebrows go like that, trying to understand what we're saying. Why does this happen? Because we don't connect with their dialect. We've got an innate dialect. We've got our native dialect that continuously goes on in our mind, right? And that gives the sound. So when we train with their language, with their sound, with the sound of their land, it makes it easy to sell a product, to pitch, say, if I had to go to Paris and I had to pitch, say, I wanted to sell scarves, okay? So I would just listen into their sound. And although I work with accents and I get paid to do different films in different accents, I'm just giving you an example. If we had to sell a scarf in Paris and we say, this is a scarf, I want to sell it, you understand? They'll say, English, no, I just don't speak English. You speak in French, parlez-vous français? No, I don't speak in French. I speak only English. Now, if I had trained in an accent, I would say, this is a scarf. I want to sell it to you, and it's a great opportunity for you to buy a scarf from India. You know, India is a beautiful land with so many colors and so much culture, so diverse. It is a great opportunity for you to come and visit. Merci beaucoup. So converting yourself. All right. Now, if I go to England and I'd want to say London, how many of us often travel to UK, right? Again, language becomes a barrier. And then the English accent is also very difficult to pick up because they're sticklers with diction. They're sticklers. They've got T muffin right in the middle of their mouths, right? They're right there when they're having their cup of tea and their muffins. So we train with the best of with British accent, especially for Netflix, Amazon Prime. We've got actors, as Raj said, who are Bollywood centric, but when they're invited to do these beautiful roles across borders, then they need to develop a certain accent in American as well as British. So a British accent is very long. It's like walking on a road, and it's very proper. So you'd like to say, "Good morning and welcome to today's program. My name is Monaz and I work for a very good company. At the same time, I'm very happy to be here. I'd also like to invite you to my land, which is India, and I live in a small city. The city is dressed up with beautiful meadows and lovely green countryside. So welcome to a place called Paradise." All right. Now, Marks and Spencer did an advertisement where they converted men to wear pink shirts. Very rarely do we find men wearing pink. So the whole brand was Rethink Fashion with Marks and Spencer. Okay, so it said, "Rethink Fashion with Marks and Spencer's, your only store, now open all over the world. Marks and Spencer, nothing like anything." So this is converting your voice, not only converting your voice and your texture, but also walking your sound in another country, being Indian. And you'll be surprised that the world of accents is so big that when we have Indian CEOs trying to go there outside to Germany, to America, to London, they would come knocking at us and say, "Can you please help us with the sound? Because, we need to get our customers to understand what we speak." And that's when accent training really comes in. It takes time, but it does happen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Monaz. Thank you for nicely explaining it. I hope everybody likes the way we are talking. The one other area where I would probably where would probably be beneficial for a lot of people would be in this world, in this age that we are now all into social media. All of us are on Instagram, all of us are on Facebook, all of us are on LinkedIn. So in this time and age when we are all trying to be active on these social media platforms, how do you think a voice will help in highlighting yourself and making yourself more visible, more relevant, more important in this world of social media? Do you think you can talk a little bit about it?
Sure. Through this phase, what we call the new normal, everything is shut. Every single door is shut. And although these doors are opening up, but we are very hesitant to get inside because we don't know if we'll be carriers of COVID-19. Now, here's the thing. While everything is shut, the only door and passage that is open is your voice box. That is the only doorway that is open. And this is Raj's quote himself. So I'm quoting back from what he said. Is the only thing that is open right now is our voice. The rest of the world is shut. Look at us. We're communicating. We would have taken a flight and come and met you. Now we are on these small windows. We're lacing up these small windows through the new normal. And this is going to stay for some time. It's not going to go away. It's going to stay. So how do we connect through these small windows? And how do we give this energy across of being warm, of being loved, of getting pitches done, of selling our stuff through Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, live shows, webinars, seminars? The only and only way is communication. How well we speak to connect our audience. How many of us long for those thumbs ups and those hearts to bob on Instagram? How many views? What is it that really gets our views? Is it the product or is it the sound? If it's the sound and the product, then 100%, right? And there's so many influencers. So many times I see influencers speak. How often? All right, they are influencers, but don't have the sound to get me to even listen to, say, one paragraph of what they need to say. It is only sound that is charismatic, that has that energy for me to connect and say, yes, this is who I want to resonate with. This is who I want to connect with. Why? Because they've put in their 100% into their sound and not their looks and not beauty. So speaking is showbiz minus its makeup. Speaking is showbiz minus its makeup. How well we communicate drives our audience towards us. It is a pitch, and it's 100% pitch. Why do Americans sell their products so brilliantly well? Because they've got the gift of the gab. They can speak. They can sell anything from a pen to a hair clip to a rubber band. They've got it, and they're not scared of speaking. They're allowing themselves to open their mouths, to use these elements and more elements. The elements are fantastically huge. They're massive. There's a whole management of voice. There's a whole management of sound. How do I place my tongue? How do I look into the camera? How do I romance it while I'm speaking? Am I having fun while speaking? Or am I just full of myself when I'm speaking? All this gets attributed to through our sound, and you'll be surprised people can actually gauge that sitting across borders and just watching one through this tiny window. So communication is the mother of everything. How well we communicate, how well we open our mouth, how do we speak, what kind of a voice do I have? Do I have a high-pitched voice? Do I have a low-pitched voice? Low registers, low-pitched voices sell better than high-pitched. Well, then if I have a high-pitched, how do I make it low? By training. It's as simple as that. Yeah? I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, you have, I think, with special focus and emphasis on chefs. A lot of people, a lot of us
Yes.
who want to actually make recipes and put up videos.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Those podcasts, for example, if you've got, Gujarat, Ahmedabad is the land of food. Who doesn't love that lovely food and hospitality? And so many of us here, I'm sure some of us or known people to us here might be having people who want to make recipes and put them up and really become famous overnight. The only thing that can get to that ingredient, the most important ingredient in that recipe is the voice. How does Sanjeev Kapoor speak? We both have worked with Sanjeev. Raj has been his CEO and I've been the voice for the channel. And the one element that he's really used is his voice. He's made it so interesting and so easy. How do you connect easiness? Only through your voice, by making it so simple and so real, by touching it. So that is your core ingredient, your voice. And again, how do we make it interesting even through non-verbal communication, like using your hands, using a gesture, not just sitting straight and speaking, getting a whole body to speak. That is communication. And that makes your videos really grand and beautiful.
Thank you. So basically, it's the right use of voice, verbal and non-verbal communication.
Correct.
The non-verbal communication
Yes.
is the use of your eyes, is the use of your eyebrows, is the use of your jawline, everything else, right? Monaz, it may be a good idea to talk about here about a couple of other programs that we do.
Sure.
One is the voice acting for storytelling and voice acting for animation. You already spoke a little bit about animation, so maybe a little bit more about the program that we do for children as well as for seniors. We do a program for voice acting for animation, and we have started a very new program which we call voice acting for storytelling. This is mainly focused at a lot of teachers who are now finding it very difficult to be talking through these small windows and how to make it interesting, and also parents who have younger children who wants to listen to stories. So unless you are an effective speaker, it kind of loses out everything, all the fun that you actually have to say. So Mona, maybe you'd like to speak a little bit about these two programs.
Sure. how many of who doesn't want to listen to a beautiful story? It could be a short story, it could be a long story. Stories are part of our life, and without a story, nothing happens. Our own life is a story, isn't it? And we want to give it out sometimes. But what holds us back is the fear of communication, the fear of how do I sound? What will people think of me? I can do everything, but I cannot speak. But I have it all there. Why don't you read my story instead of me reading it myself? Children resonate with beautiful stories. They bloom and they blossom when we tell them a story. Not only do they become calm and quiet, but they also the brain inside, the muscle starts developing. If we speak and narrate the story well, then we are teaching them how to speak correctly. So all that energy gets transported into the brain, and the brain really picks all this information up. The voice box starts moving before we even know it. So you'll have young children starting to speak and become beautiful narrators. We've had programs, where we've got children across Singapore who connected with us, and they've become beautiful actors, just as tiny as 6 and 7 and 10, isn't it, Raj? And they've developed a beautiful skill in their own voice, and they can't wait to get to more training. So children are so young, and their minds are so agile that they're able to pick up like sponges what we speak, and how we sound will impact the way kids sound, because we're trainers, right? And we are teachers, and all of us are trainers to some extent, because we're always telling our kids what to do. But how do we develop a good sounding voice while narrating a beautiful story? For example, I just read out this little story to you about Ayurveda, but if I were to read Hansel and Gretel to you, I'd say, once upon a time, in a tiny village, there lived an old couple. This couple was very poor. He was a woodcutter who married for the second time. This woodcutter had 2 beautiful children, a son whose name was Hansel, and a daughter whose name was Gretel. Now the woodcutter remarried and had a horrible wife who was wicked, and she would order Hansel and Gretel and keep telling them, Hansel, go and get that dish right now. Gretel, what are you doing? Go and sweep the floors right now. Hansel and Gretel would sit in a quiet room weeping away, waiting for their father to come. Now, this is an example of how a story should be read, all right? But if we change our tone and just use a speaking tone to read a story, how different would it be? Once upon a time, there was a little house, and in that house, there lived a woodcutter and his wife. The woodcutter had 2 children, Hansel and Gretel. The woodcutter also had a stepwife. He married for the second time. She was a wicked woman. She would say, Hansel, go and get the dishes. Gretel, go and sweep. Hansel and Gretel would keep crying all day in their little room. And you see the difference in tone? In the earlier pitch, we've used all the elements, some of the elements. And in the one that I just did, I've just read it out without any feeling. So how do we connect a story with feeling? And how do kids feel? And I feel storytelling is really important in this day and age right now, because we're going through so much stress outside. So kids really need a story. And even if they don't need a story, they want to learn how to do it well, because speaking is also therapeutic, and how well we speak is therapy itself. So it automatically transports into a beautiful space in the mind, where this beautiful sound lies, the power of sound. So you're actually connecting yourself in that wonderful space.
I'll just give you an example. Since the time we started about 3 months back online, we were very hesitant to take kids for animation. We have trained in this last 2.5, 3 months, about 40 kids so far. But we took these kids who were 5 years old, 3 from Singapore, 1 from the US, and 1 from Saudi Arabia. Now what's happened is they did 6 sessions with us. Now we are starting another round for them, because they are demanding, because they've gone to their mother and they said we want to do more of this, and they picked up so well. So it feels very good to see, and kids can really do them very well. The last program, the Munaz, I just wanted to talk about it because there are a few questions which I can see, and we will take up these
Sure.
questions one by one. I hope, Shilpa, we are not running out of time. I hope we are okay with the time.
Yeah.
Yes,
Shilpa,
yes. Please
okay.
go ahead. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
So the one other program that I wanted you to highlight is the one that we have designed for beauty pageants. So
Yes.
this is the program which we called Walk the Talk. Now, Walk the Talk is a program which we have designed for all contestants of Miss India, Miss World, Miss Universe, and all the other beauty pageants that happens, Miss Gujarat, Miss Tamil Nadu, whatever. So that is one program which we have designed. Also, it applies to a lot of models, a lot of actors, and anchors. So everybody combined, we realized that this is a profession where voice is very, very, very important. So we have designed this program which we called Walk the Talk, and very happy to let you know that we are now training. We've trained about 15 girls so far, and we are now training about 8 girls, which is going on currently. And we all keeping our fingers crossed that quite a few of these will come up in the Miss India contest as Miss India, hopefully, and also many other shows and many actors and models. So do you want to talk a little bit before I start off with the
Sure.
questions that I can see?
Sure. Walk the Talk was designed by us because we felt India really needs the sound, and beauty is part of it. It reflects inner beauty and outer beauty. What's the point of dressing up if we're not a complete package? So we designed this program called Walk the Talk to give India a platform across the globe where Indian beauties with their beautiful dusky skins, fair complexions, dark chocolatey skin colors actually become ambassadors of this wonderful land of unity and diversity called India. And giving them a beautiful global sounding voice will actually hone them a fantastic skill. And we also realize that once you're a beauty queen or a Miss India, or even in the top 10, top 15, what happens is producers start looking at them. And lo and behold, before you know it, they've been casted for Bollywood movies, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Eros, Hotstar, so many OTT platforms. But what is really important is the way they speak and they carry themselves off. We've heard many Indian beauties, who would look $1 million, but they don't sound $1 million. So we've converted this by training them how to wear stilettos in their voice box, how to wear a pair of Prada and Jimmy Choo and Chanel in their voice box. We're actually crafting a beautiful sounding voice. For example, if somebody were to ask me, why would you want to become Miss India? And the answer would be, well, I'd want to become Miss India because I believe in myself. I feel that I can make a difference and touch many lives, not only in India, but across the globe. Okay, now a small statement like this, if it's said differently, I want to become Miss India because I feel that I can make a difference and I can change the world and carry on India to another level. What's the difference? What is the difference? There's a huge difference. When we work on our jawline, when we work on our cheekbones and get our sound from here, get our sound from the tip of our nose, pouting your lips and speaking, even though it might sound fake for that moment, but that is required for a beauty pageant platform to carry your sound off, to be feminine, to be graceful. And then again, training them towards with British accents, with American accents, so that when they're ambassadors, they don't hesitate. They sound, like a brand. When you look at Priyanka Chopra, and you look at Lara Dutta, they've got sounds that they've invested in. They've trained their voice, and you'll be surprised. We've got Mrs. Indias, and we've even got somebody in a platinum category, isn't it, Raj? Who's in her 50s and who's wanting to model. So hats off. Power to women. Power to women. I feel so proud listening to all these lovely stories and then wanting to come out and say, hey, I want to make a difference. I want to work with myself, and I want to add beauty to another level. I want to teach people, and I want to carry this on. So it's so beautiful to see this. see this platform shine bright like a diamond. And we are so blessed to have these wonderful, beautiful girls on board. And we're really hoping that we will have winners, Miss India, Miss World, and Miss
Mrs. India. So I just wanted to tell you that I forgot to mention it, but amongst the 30, 40 girls that we are training and we have trained, there are at least 7 to 8 girls who are vying for the Mrs. India title as well. So that kind of feels very good. Okay, before we, I think, go ahead any further, shall we take a few questions? Shilpa, is it okay?
Sure.
If
Please
Shilpa,
go ahead.
Shilpa,
Yes,
Anju.
Yes, I think it'll be a good idea to take questions now.
Okay.
So I think Swapna wanted to know what are the exercises that we can do to enhance the quality of our voice. Is there a fixed pattern that we can follow for 5-10 minutes daily and then, the voice quality improves? Monaz?
Sure, we can do a whole lot of exercises. But my innate advice to everyone here working with their voices is exercises is not going to help you. Okay, exercises are available on YouTube. Plenty, dime a dozen. You just got to press a button to get a whole lot of exercise. What is important is the source, is how to develop that good voice. First have the voice and first understand where is it coming from. How do I get myself to get a good voice? Then the exercise. So that is important. First, take baby steps. First, get a good voice. And how do you get a good voice? Of course, by training. That's number one, because we all have it. If you have a high-pitched voice, then you've got to work on low register. And if you have a very deep voice, then you've got to come up right in the middle of your chest and get it somewhere in the middle, right? So there are plenty of exercises. You can repeat Om 1,000,000 times, and that could be a good exercise. Breathing, pranayama, all these things are good exercises. Tongue twisters are good exercises. But the essence is that if we don't get to the source of it, if we don't get to the root of it, which is working on the structure of voice, which is building on the voice, then there's no point doing those exercises. I hope I've answered your question, Sapna. Yeah. So that's you. How wonderful. Hello. I'd like to hear your sound. I'd like to hear your sound.
It was lovely listening to you, Monaz. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wonderful.
And about Nimrat Singh, one of our members, she has asked that how does one add value to our communication by the body language? It's told that most of the messages go through or pass through the body.
Can you repeat that again, Anju?
Yeah, sure. How does one add value to our communication by the body language? As usually people say that it goes through the body.
Yes. Very good question. How do we communicate through body language? Very important, just the way I am. I'm smiling and I'm speaking. If I was turned like this and I'm saying, what do you mean by communication through body language? What have I just done? Put you down and I'm saying I'm the best, right? That's body language. But if I smile and I move my head, this is all non-verbal communication. And this is what the world actually needs right now. What we're doing, paralinguistic communication. There's a whole science to it. There's a whole technique to it. How do I connect my sound vibration to my body? How do I do it? By using the elements, by training. A lot of work goes into this. A lot of practice, lots of mirror work, lots of video making. And of course, nothing goes without training. So, understanding that this is a value and this is going to take me across and can change lives. One knock at your door, that could be a perspective barrier. It doesn't have to be a platform. Your communication starts at home. It could be just that one person who could change your life, and could be that huge big barrier. But how have you communicated to him or her could be life-changing. Just the way you speak, smile through your words, just the way you articulate, the way you express, the way you want to reach out. A word like reach out. There's a ch in the ch, reach out. Small details, small nuances, small key mnemonics to train in sound. Sound is a huge industry. It's massive. And it's the only industry that's never going to be locked down. And trust me, in today's day and age, Anju and Shilpa, this is the one place that really, that everyone has been knocking. That everyone's knocking, saying, I want to work on this, I want to work on this, I want to work on this. So it's one aspect that is eternal. Of course, and your inner calmness has to be there. Without that, you are nobody.
There is one more wants to ask.
I can't hear you, darling. Anju, I can't hear
Can
you.
I add something here?
Yeah.
Okay, Mona. Could I add something here? It's okay?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so there was this real example. I was working as a company and we were trying to bring the union and the management together to talk on the and the management, when it came, we calmed them down, but they sat like this, the management. And immediately there was no talk. The union said, I don't think they're in a mood to negotiate. So then we understood that it was totally the body languages gave away everything. So then we had to also tell them that intent is very important. You really want to, break this impasse, then you also have to change your body language. So that was something which we picked up, that it's in real life situations that does happen. When a teenager goes to and the parent says like that, tell me, what do you want? Immediately, you know that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. Very, very true. I haven't got your name right. I need to wear my glasses. Nimrat, yeah. Very, very true. Of course, body language is everything. And connection from within. But also when you're addressing union leaders, you need a very astute, calm voice to connect. For example, even teenagers, being empathetic, not just sympathetic, listening to them. How do we listen? There's a beautiful book called How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk by Elaine Maslach. It's how do we become empathetic? And good speakers will always be empathetic. They'll always have a melody in their tone. So then the management of rhythm, of texture, placement of tongue, how do I use that? For example, आप हिंदी में बात करेंगे अपने union leaders के साथ. The first thing you do is namaste. The moment you do namaste like that, you've given it away, right? But if I did namaste tilting my head like that, it changes the whole equation. And just a smile and just doing this, like giving your hands forward by saying, I'm at your mercy, right? That itself could change things. We've had CEOs, big CEOs of huge organizations. And, they've not been able to handle their board, but the moment they've worked on development of skill sets while speaking and orating correctly and moving their presentation step by step by step, we've seen the magic of their graph, the company progress, crores of, figures just changing overnight, just by the power of sound. And believing in it, not faking it, actually believing in it, that, here is a voice, here is a body, and I've got to orchestrate it. So orchestrating your body and sound together, it's not easy. And it takes a lot of guts and a lot of grit, but it is a place where space is required, where you need to come to terms with it yourself and then work through it. So your voice is like a river. It can become a blanket of soft roses on you, right? We've heard that saying in Hindi, kitni meethi baat hoti hai. Mishti, Bengalis have sweetness in their sound when they speak, right? The moment they open their Gujaratis, what lovely hospitality, what beautiful food. Imagine amalgamating all that into your voice box and then speaking. So that's intent. You rightly said, Nidhi, it's intent. Sankalp. What is my intent? What do I want to do? What do I want to fix over here? Right? You want to fix your sound to get and to garner an audience that will understand your need, and you again need to be empathetic. So leadership qualities, speaking to union leaders, speaking across the boardroom requires one tool, the power of sound, voice. In that silence is everything. And in that stillness, even when I'm speaking, can you feel a silence in that speech? That will connect people. That will connect the union back to you and say, we're sorry for what we did. We want to think about it. Unions can be very tough. Absolutely, they can be very tough. I've worked for Times Network for the last for 14 years of my life. Trust me, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's very tough. But through communication skills and through gentle training and speaking the way one has to communicate, miracles can happen. Forget bending bridges. Miracles can happen with your sound.
I totally believe that.
I hope I've answered your question.
Absolutely. In fact, there's a little tip even for teenagers. When you talk to a teenager, sit down at that same, level. Many times I've seen people talk over the child, and that is very intimate.
Absolutely.
So sit down and talk at the same level. They'll understand it differently. They receive the message differently.
Absolutely. And going back to this, Nimrat, I'd like to add, we've had so many students and clients who trained with us, big trainers, in fact, very big NLP trainers. I mean, we're talking about big business of training. They've come to us, Rajan, and they've said, I can train, I can speak, but when I speak, my family feels I'm very rude and very arrogant in my truth. We hear this so often. How do we convert that? Now that is texture. Sound has texture, right? So nodule conversion, converting your nodules to softer textures. Movement of sound, placement of the throat, of the tongue. Where can it be placed to invite a beautiful sounding voice? For example, if I say Tata Tea Gold, if you've seen the advertisement, I don't know if Raju sent it, Tata Tea Gold was a big advertisement that actually got people to start buying tea to sip it after they heard the advertisement, because it had the flavor of tea inside it. It actually had the flavor of tea while speaking. So your sound can actually transport you to another level. And Shilpa is absolute witness to this. So she can absolutely vouch for that.
Yeah,
Beautiful poetry and her lovely intellect being put into a beautiful sound.
Yeah, so I think it was a fantastic session today. So we all learned how to talk the talk today, the various nuances and moods and varieties of sound. Thank you, Raj and Monaz, for telling us that voice is an integral part of our personality. I'm sure all the participants really enjoyed the session. And thank you for a very enlightening 1 hour. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you, Anju. Thank you, Anju. Thank you, Shilpa. I just wanted to add one line to say that I hope in this beautiful adventure that you are taking upon mind, body, and soul, I hope we have added the component of voice to the whole mind, body, and soul, because the component of voice and the part of your voice is what connects mind, body, and the soul. So thank you very much. And there has been some questions about suggestion for somebody, if we know anyone at Ahmedabad who does these. I don't think we know anybody, but we will be very happy to get in touch. Any of you who wants to talk or wants more information, please get in touch with me. I have given my number on that on the voice chat, and if you want to note it down, it is 98200-63447. That's my number, 98200-63447. We'll be more than happy to tell you how and what we do, and take you and try and help you out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll have you in Ahmedabad soon, and we'll have your session here also.
We'd love to come, Anju and Shilpa. Thank you very much. Very, very
Thank
humble.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, please do follow us on Instagram as Voice Smiths. We're on LinkedIn and on Instagram. We've got our individual pages also. But we'd definitely be delighted to help you with whatever your needs are as far as sound is concerned. Yeah. So
Best of luck.
Shilpa.
Best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Best of luck.
Please do mention your Instagram handle pages in the chat.
Okay.
Sure, I'll tell Raj.
I will.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was brilliant. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our pleasure indeed. Thank you.
I'm just
So-
posting it. I'm just posting it on the
The chat.